Methods: control line method, area method, contour firing, counter firing, water for fire suppression, chemical using suppression, airborne tankers. If you talk about the control line methods, this is the method. It is used especially on the roadsides, on the paths where we see that fire occurring in the line. So we check the fire should not be cross the line. So at the line of the fire, we check fire at that point only. We cut the fuel from the in the line. So we make the line by cutting the fuel. So fire will not go inside the reserve forest or wherever the wind prevails towards the wind direction. Then we have the area method. We check the fire and we restrict the fire inside the area. We cut the fuels uh, outer outer of the area. We cut the fuel from the outer of the area so that the fire may not come out from those areas. So these are the people, these are the crew members who are cutting the fuels from the outer periphery of the area. So only fire is confined inside that area. That area is, we are sacrificing that particular area for the fire because the wildfire, that ground fire, is now taking place. Backfiring. When there is a ground fire occurred and it is not possible to check the fire with the hand tools, so and wind is blowing at a very high speed, so it is next to impossible to the crew member to check the fire with the hand tools or other equipments. So we are having only method is counter firing. Suppose this is a hill and fire happen on the top of the hills. We start firing at the bottom of the hills. So whatever the fuel lying on the grounds, it is burned due to this counter fire. When the fuel is burned, the fire will check only in this area. So this is called counter firing, and it is used in a very wild kind of fires when it is not possible for the crew member to check it. Then FRI is prepared some kind of tools. These are the hand tools which are very useful for the uh, forest fire management during the whenever the fire occurred or during the clearing of the fire lines. So these tools are very useful. These tools may be kept inside this toolkit bag, which is backside bag. Anyone crew member can uh, tie this bag on his back and take this whole of the tools um, are kept inside the in this bag, and anyone crew member uh, can travel from one place to other for dousing the fire. So it has the two kinds of fire racks, nail type and tag type racks. The nail type rack is used for removing all the small leaves and small litters, which is lying on the forest floor during the fire, removing of the and small just like coniferous needles which are small in diameters. So those leaves and dried materials can be removed with the help of this nail type rack. Big removed with the help of this pack type rack. And another is fire broom. The fire broom is helpful in dousing the fire. It suppresses the fire. Now these racks and the brooms and the fire beater, these are tied with this uh, of adjustable load, just to say 2 meter of length. So it is a foldable kind of adjustable rod. On the tip of the rod, we can tie this rack, 1 rack, 2 rack, or fire brooms, one fire beater. Fire beater is helpful in beating the lumps, whatever the lumps which left after the forest fire. Sometimes these lumps or the wooden pieces sometimes may make fire after 1 or 2 days. So it is helpful in beating of those kind of coal material which is lying on the forest floor, and it is also tied with this rod. Then we have pathal also. This pathal is the specification of this pathal we got from the Gujjar. The Gujjar which are living inside the forest area, and we went to Gujjar's deras, and we checked its specification, and we made this pathal. It is very useful and very light also. It is useful in cutting of the bushes and branches, the fire, the bushes which are catching fire. It is very useful in cutting of those bushes and branches. And then one torch is necessary. This kind of torch can be tied on the head of the crew member, or it can also be tied on the wrist of the crew member. Then we should also have 2 liter of water bottle. So all these material, all these tools can be kept inside this bag, and it can carry easily by the crew member on the hills. And total weight of these equipment around 2 kg maybe. Now this crew member is fighting with the fire with the help of a spade. It is removing the fuel. Then these members are cutting the fire bushes so that the fire may not spread in other areas. These are climbing and cutting bushes, and spraying water on the fire with the help of the water pumps. Actually, water pumps are these vehicles, or the tender vehicles, water tended vehicles. We can't use in the Himalayan areas, in the hilly areas, but as far as the plain areas are concerned, so these water tender or the spray pump can be useful. This is a small pump which can carry easily in the hilly area also. These are the paragliders, crew member jumping from the aircraft. Now this is spreading the water on the fire, on the fire on a place where the fire occurred. This is throwing water along with the chemicals. Now, as for the recommendation is concerned, it is necessary. Actually, in our forest institutes, we have about 10 to 11 forestry institutes in our country, which are under the umbrella of Indian Council of Forestry Research and Education. But we don't have any forest fire research center in those institutes. So it is necessary. We proposed a center of excellence in FRI through NDMA, but due to some reasons, it was not materialized. It is necessary to create the Forest Fire Research Center in each state, collaborating with the FRI and FSI. So what is the function of those research centers? Research centers will provide the training guidance to the frontline staff of the forest departments, forest officers also, others target groups. One thing that is training aspects, another thing conducting research on development of various tools and equipment for combating the forest fires. Then another third thing that is necessary to assess the loss due to forest fire. What is the economic loss of that particular area where the massive forest fire occurred? We are not having data of loss of the forest fire. As far as the quantifiable loss is concerned, it is very easy to quantify the uh, quantifiable losses like timber, how much timber is lost, how much vegetation is lost. That is quantifiable. But unquantifiable things are not assessed. Like how much services we have lost, how much carbon we have lost, how much oxygen we have lost due to forest fire. So another thing that is very important aspect is conducting research on the loss assessment due to forest fires, and many other things can be collaborated with the uh, states, with FRI and FSI, and mapping also. Then massive awareness to rural masses on importance of the forest ecosystem services, incentive to villagers in forest fire control. It is necessary that during the uh, fire season, onset of the fire season, it is very necessary that we should encourage to the villagers and the community wherever there are chances of forest fire near the forest areas. It is necessary uh, to highlights about the use of the forest ecosystem and what kind of services the forest provide us. We should highlight to them, and also the massive awareness we should uh, aware to the rural masses on the importance of ecosystem services, incentive to villagers in the forest and fire control, collection of the periodical data on loss assessment. As I told you, preparation of fire danger rating model in each state. As I discussed about this, the danger rating maps, zonation maps should be prepared in each state. That can be also done in Forest Fire Research Center. Strengthening of communication and monitoring system. Then communication means should be strengthened, and monitoring system should also be strengthened. Improving transport facilities. Transport facilities also should also be improved. Providing facility of water, equipment, vehicles, tools, protection kits for the crew members. These are very necessary. I went to Punjab state uh, 3-4 months back before lockdown. Then I asked to forest department frontline staff that have you got the fire tools with you? So they told me that they didn't have any fire tools with them. So that is tools equipment to all the forest department people. So whenever the fire happens, so immediately they douse fires. Application of silviculture system techniques in fire prone areas. So what should be the silviculture system? How much trees should be there? How much density should be there in 1 hectare? And how we check the density of the trees, so that we can decrease the density, improve the productivity of the forest. That comes under silviculture system and techniques. Study on effect of forest fire on climate change. It can also be done in the forest fire research centers of the country. Thanks. So any questions, any queries you have?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for sharing your lifetime experience in this field of forest fire management. Sir, you have talked about forest fires in covering all the aspects of forest fire, managing the disaster and its impact on forest and livelihood of the local communities. So, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite Sri Abdesh sir. He is assistant professor at Bareilly University. Um, Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Shilki ma'am. I am sharing my presentation. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it's a really very nice session and last presentation I'm delivering of today's last presentation is delivered by me. And I would like to thank Dhawan sir, who have provided such an insightful presentation on a forest fire. And a lot of information was there, and a lot of uh, especially the tools that are used in the forest fire mitigation has adopted by the local communities. It come to the knowledge of everyone that we are using the indigenous technology that are common in our country. So lot of data, lot of information. Thank you so much, sir. And now I would like to start my presentation. I think my presentation is visible to everyone. Ashish sir, hello, Ashish sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm audible. So,
Kindly continue, sir.
okay, sir. Okay. So I've choose this topic. Actually, this is the combination of the two different presentation. One is on the smart city, and second one is associated with the disaster resilient infrastructure. Both are the broad topics. And disaster resilient infrastructure (DRI) I have to pick because it is closely associated with the smart city concept. That is very helpful in making the countries disaster resilient. And this is very close to India because I would tell the participant in the coming slide that how it is very closely associated with India and our initiatives. So it's a FDP on the basic disaster management. So I would like to start with very basic things, very basic data that is known to everyone, I think, but it is very important to discuss. And this is let me start the slideshow. Uh, so this is the scenario, basic of basics. Basic of basic, I would like to indicate toward the alarming situation. I have invited to share this slide with Shri Ashish ji because yesterday he discussed about the situation that we are facing today. Basically, we are overcrowded. We are traveling in a bus that is overcrowded already. So Earth is overshoot with the annual demanded resources exceeding with what Earth can regenerate each year. Our situation is very critical because we need approximate 1.5 today, 1.5 Earth today. We just have a single planet. We are not going to count the moon because it's not habitable right now. So we need the 1.5 Earth at the present situation. But if we go on with our needs and we continue with the pattern which we are following, uh, then we will move towards the situation in 2050 after some years that we will need the three Earths. So this is going to be certainly a very critical situation for all of us, not for any country, but for entire globe. So all the disasters, all the tough situation are started right from here. So this is the basic alarming situation. We all the people, we all the citizens of almost every country of a whole planet are suffering from. So let us take a basic look over the India's vulnerability of disaster. So already we know that we have no feature is there, no feature is left there that is not found in India. We have the hills, we have the different types of geological features, including it. But this is not a tourist attraction, but also a situation where 85% of Indian areas is vulnerable to the multiple hazard. And approximately 28 to 7 union territories, 22 are disaster prone, and we are already at a situation where we have to concern with the disaster management with a very connected manner. So 57% of land is vulnerable to the earthquake, and 12% is associated with the severe earthquake. So this is vulnerable to the severe earthquake, and 68% of land is vulnerable to the drought, major problem of India. We spend a lot of budget here. 12% land of vulnerable, 12% land is vulnerable to the floods, and 8% land is vulnerable to the cyclone that Ms. Shilke is recently tell about his case study of the Amphan cyclone. There are so many cyclones recorded in the history of India. So apart from the natural disaster, some cities in India and some portion of India is also vulnerable to the chemical disaster we have recently seen at the Vizag, and also who can forget the Bhopal gas tragedy and industrial disaster that is associated that I recently told the participant. That man-made disasters are also associated. We have several accidents took place. Uh, in fact, the global situation is really very bust. We are quite good at the nuclear safety. Otherwise, we have the Fukushima Daiichi and other disaster that are associated with the nuclear mishaps. So this is Ashish sir. Am I audible? Hello, Ashish sir. Am I
Yes,
audible,
sir.
sir? Okay. Thank you. So this is a quick bird's eye look of a natural hazard map of India. This showing the drought-prone area in the yellow color, and the other color are describing the hot desert where heat wave is a very great problem. Cold desert, we have the Ladakh area, desert, a very unique geological feature that India have, and the flood-prone area, major problem because we have the northern belt. The world have the two poles, but India have the third another pole, that is Himalaya, and a lot of water come into on this terrain, and due to the slope due to this slope, this north Indian plain is suffered from the flood every year. We have the Bengal and we have the Bihar that is hit by the flooding problem every year. And other disaster, we can see that a cyclonic storm that Shilki is very good, very finely explain everything about that. Bay of Bengal, or I've been saying this is the Bay of Bengal region where cyclone is a common phenomena. Then we have the flood hazard map. This is the India's vulnerability to the flood. So that I have explained in my previous slide that this region has a lot of spots that is indicated the flood hazard zone. And next, we will move toward the earthquake zones. Earthquake vulnerability is also good. Northeastern region is, you can see that this color is indicating the very high risk zone. And it is, and apart from that, we can see this Uttarakhand portion is also very significant. It is also in a very high risk zone. Then this entire portion comes in the high risk zone, and it is a matter of worry for our infrastructure planners and disaster managers. Then we move towards the next slide, and it is showing the an earthquake seismic activity of a certain magnitude. That is, you can see this star is indicated as an earthquake of 6.2 to 9.3 Richter scale. So you can easily observe that this star can be spotted at a very large span in the northern region of India. It is Hindu Kush belt entire is filled with this star. There 6.5 and 9.3 earthquakes are very common, and recently in the last 2 months we have also experienced the seismic activity at various locations in India like Delhi, Haryana and Gujarat, and also in the northeastern area where 5.5 earthquake was observed, and it also destroyed some houses there. Now this is a global profile. It is data from the period of 1976 to 2000. It's Southeast Asia and Indian Ocean. I am slightly far away from the Indian map because this is filled with this data. But this may create a situation of tsunami because we have a large coastal boundary too. 7,516 kilometer approximate we have a coastal boundary, including Andaman Nicobar. And this is going to create a situation. We have also seen the tsunami's effect on this region. So this is also a sub impact we can say of earthquake. And apart from that, in the basics we can discuss that economic losses are most important for any country's backbone, because the backbone of every country is lie on the economy. If the economy is shattered, then there is no meaning of development on the cost of the disaster facing. Top 10 countries of disaster losses. India spent approximate 80 billion. It is the data from 1998 and 2017, and source is UNISDR and Credit Report of Economic Losses, Poverty and Disaster for 1998 and 2017. So we also have some countries greater than us. That's US 945, huge budget. But the situation is, the problem is they are developed one, but we are developing one. So it is it is like $80 billion is a huge budget for us. So this annual losses in Indian context, if we see that, then we can read in the table that India's average annual loss by disaster is by the earthquake is 19, 447, storm disaster, tsunami, flood. A large portion of annual losses composed of the 7472 is composed of the flood alone. Then 9825. This figure is in $1 million. So you can see that this is source in Global Assessment Report 2015 of UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, and these make some really hello.
Hello, Uday
Ji sir. Sir, am I visible and audible?
both you can make your screen full screen, sir.
Okay, sir.
And you
Actually,
can-
it got disconnected from my side. That's why I'm asking this.
And you go ahead.
Okay, sir. There is a connection unstable. Slightly connection is unstable here. So let's continue. So this was the basic of disaster situation in Indian context and also in global context that I have explained. And what is the opinion of the international community we have to see? This investing in the preparedness saves thousands of lives and billions of dollars later. This is a statement by Helen Clark, UNDP and administrator. आप अगर थोड़ा सा पैसे preparedness पे डाल देते हैं तो हम बहुत सारी जानें और बहुत सारा पैसा बचा सकते हैं. ये स्टेटमेंट है इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी का. और उसके बाद we can't prevent disasters, but preparedness can help prevent the human tragedies they cause. So this is also a famous statement. So currently the international community spends only 1% of aid, but after these big statements and after this critical situation that we will need the 3 Earth in the 2050 that is projected, and apart from and the situation where the India and also the global community is spending a lot of facing a lot of losses by the disaster. Currently, the international community spends only 1% of aid on disaster preparedness. So it is something that has to worry about. So this is disaster resilient infrastructure is required not for the development, but it is also necessary to combat natural calamities. In this regard, I stressed upon the need of an international coalition in G20 conference of Benin Arise. I invite the G20 countries to join this coalition and share their experience and expertise. This is a statement that in the beginning of my slide, I said that it is the CDRI or the disaster resilient infrastructure has a close association with India. So this is the statement that is associating India with this initiative. This is taken by our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, and this coalition for disaster resilient infrastructure comes into the picture. And it is basically an international coalition of countries and United Nations agencies, multilateral development banks, and private sector and academics. And the objective, what is the objective? Objective is to promote the research and knowledge that is much needed thing at this point of time. And in the field of infrastructure risk management, standard, finance, and recovery mechanism, this is the initiative by Indian Prime Minister. It's a matter of proud for all of us that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi at 2019 UN Climate Action Summit in 2019, it was launched. And CDRI basically aims to achieve the substantial change in member countries. We are the leader, and there are several there are several countries of the globe have supported us in this initiative. And this policy framework and future infrastructure investment, along with a major decrease in economical losses that are suffered due to disasters, that I have prominently explained in my previous slides. So this CDRI is basically the gift of India, and it was proposed basically by 2016 in Asian Ministerial Conference on Disaster Risk Reduction held at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. This CDRI was later conceptualized in the first and second edition of International Workshop on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, IWDRI, in 2018-19 also. And it was it was where the India's NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, come in the partnership with the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, famous as UNDRR, and UN Development Program, World Bank Group, and Global Commission on Adaptation. Then then our Prime Minister approved, Honorable Prime Minister approved the proposal for CDRI on 13 August 2019. It is the basic of basic of this CDRI, after which it was approved by the Union Cabinet on 28 August 2019. And Government of India also placed financial support of used 480 crore, about US $67 million, $67 million toward the CDRI. This launch I have explained, but we have a timely time restraint, so I am skipping this slide. But our Prime Minister said that an ounce of practice worth more than ton of preaching. आप भाषण मत दीजिए, आप अगर एक काम प्रैक्टिस का डाल देते हैं तो वो ज़्यादा बेटर है। और इसको इतना सपोर्ट मिला है कि हमारी 12 कंट्रीज जो हैं, 12 कंट्रीज पार्टिसिपेट हैं, लॉन्च में भी इन्होंने किया, अलॉन्ग भारत के साथ खड़ी हो गई। नेमली इनका नाम है ऑस्ट्रेलिया, भूटान, फिजी, इंडोनेशिया, इटली, जापान, मालदीव, मैक्सिको, मंगोलिया, रवांडा, श्रीलंका और यूके, यूनाइटेड किंगडम। और ये भारत की एक जो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट लीडरशिप है इसको दर्शाता है। और हमारा एक ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव इनिशिएटिव यहाँ भारत का था। उसके बाद इंडियन गवर्नमेंट एंड द UNDRR co-host event called Resilient Infrastructure Key to Success in 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Now move for the diplomatic situation or significance. It has we all Indians should know that it has a very great diplomatic significance, global significance. I would like to use that. The CDRI is the second major coalition. The first one was, we all know that, International Solar Alliance, that is also associated with our National Climate Action Plan, and also to the international framework of different the organizations and different the convention that held at various times. So this was the second major coalition of India, that India's attempt to attend the global leadership role. And CDRI also associated, because we are all listening the name of China. We have to make the indigenous thing. We have to come towards our indigenous technologies, and we should ban the Chinese goods. These are we are all discussing, but the major problem is associated with the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. Project of CDRI provide a safer alternative. CDRI is also an attempt to provide a safer alternative to Belt and Road Initiative. Though the BRI is, in one hand, the BRI is an infrastructure creation and funding initiative, but CDRI is associated with the humanitarian and international knowledge platform. Need, what is the need? I would like to briefly discuss the need. This is a global coalition. That's why every country is supporting us, because entire globe is in danger. We are our population of every country is increasing day by day and presenting new challenges before us. And since we are the second most populous country, then the challenges are more severe for us. So few initiatives work at the intersection of the Sendai framework. The peoples who are associated with Sendai framework, and we are lucky to have the NIDM with us, who have the leaders in this knowledge dissemination about this disaster resistance in the country, DRR in the country. That the Sendai framework, and the second thing is SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and climate change adaptation with a focus of infrastructure too. So this actually this disaster infrastructure DRI is simultaneously address the loss reduction targets under the Sendai framework, and it will helpful for achieving the SDGs. So it will because it is also addressing the number of SDG goals on the climate change adaptation. Now next is
Avdesh ji. Hello.
I think there is some internet disruption or what?
हाँ सर, उनकी तरफ से कुछ प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है।
I think he is back.
लोड कर रहे हैं सर। हाँ यस सर जी। अवधेश जी अपने को अनम्यूट कर लीजिए प्लीज।
Oh, now sir, I have unmuted myself.
Okay.
I have to return back to my slide.
Please continue.
Sorry to everyone for this inconvenience due to the low connectivity.
Okay sir, kindly continue.
Okay, sir. So this is all about the CDRI, and diplomatic significance I have discussed because it will helpful in achieving the global leadership in India's effort in the DRR. Then this was the CDRI 2019. It brought together all the countries. It was an attempt to brought together all the countries from different parts of the world with different socioeconomic background and geographical features. So this was organized by NDMA and UNISDR. Then who will be benefited? This is the key question, because whatever we are doing, that who is going to benefit it is key question. Then it will address the people who are belong from the economically weaker section of society, and women and children that are more vulnerable to any disaster we have observed with the experience of our people, our previous experience in the previous disaster outbreaks. Then the India is important. This thing is important for India. Obviously, the country who has a very significant and seismically active northeastern section, Himalayan region, and the cyclone and two tsunamis, and central peninsula region is also affected by the drought. So this initiative will benefit all the section of society and all areas of high disaster risk. And these are the name of the members. I have tell the department that initially they were 12, now it is 15 at the March 2020 data. So now I connect the presentation to my second portion, that is the smart city and disaster resilient infrastructure and role of smart cities in achieving its goal. It is very important to understand. So why it is important? So the question is, cities are the engine of economic growth. We know that about 31% of urban areas contributing the 63% of GDP, and by 2020, 40% of population that is living in the cities is going to contribute 75% of GDP. The source of this report is UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. You can see the major city the major cities of India, that are Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Bangalore, and Chennai. The data is significantly increased in an aspect of population in a decadal basis. In every decadal population count, we see a significant increase in this in the population. So, and even there is a prediction that we will surpass the China very soon and become #1 populous country. So this is the situation of the cities. We cannot go for the conventional construction philosophy, conventional planning philosophy, because otherwise the situation is one day going to go out from the hand. So what is the smart city? Since it is a basic disaster management presentation, that is why I am discussing the basic details first and then move toward the problem area. So this there is no particular definition for the smart cities. You can understand this meaning of the smart with the help of your phone. We all use the feature phone in the initial era of the communication or telecommunication, and then it become the smartphone. We can, with the smartphone, we can perform the multiple tasks at a single time. And in the same manner, a city that is smart, that can target to different goals at a single time, like the traffic management, education, Internet of Things, IoT, that is popularly called, intelligent shopping, public safety, and smart energy. A lot of aspects are there. Then we have the example of cities that prove very beneficial, that Barcelona, Curitiba, Dongqing, Hangzhou. Hello. Hello, Ashish sir.
Hello. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay, okay. Thank you, sir. So these are the name of some cities. I am not going to discuss the detail, but these cities have their problem associated with their planning, and with this smart city concept, they have solved their planning, like using GPS and GIS technology. PK Joshi sir has yesterday given an excellent presentation on the role of GIS. And then Hangzhou city, bike sharing, everyone use their own bike, then obviously the pollution and traffic is going to increase. But if the sharing concept is introduced in these cities, then we can think about some control. Hubli, this is the Indian city. And then London, Palanivaran, Visakhapatnam, Boston, Dublin, and London again. I think that was some different city. So they have sorted out their problems. I'm not going to discuss detail because time is not good. So how it is going to achieve the concept of how to achieve the goals of CDRO, disaster resilient infrastructure. Four pillars of the smart city, if we discuss in a broad manner, then it is institutional infrastructure, physical infrastructure, social infrastructure, and economic infrastructure. So the second aspect that is very important in disaster by disaster point of view. You can see this diagram. These are the pillars, and most important thing, the citizen involvement. Citizen involvement is most important, and technology is coordinate between the sustainability and flexibility. And then this physical infrastructure will be designed in a manner that is planned to control and mitigate the effect of disaster that are associated with the particular area, because we cannot implement a single plan or single smart city planning to everywhere. We need a different planning for each region. Different region. We need a different type of methodology to implement our planning against the disaster mitigation. So this is the role of smart cities, where the physical infrastructures can contribute a lot. And these are aspects that a smart city have, and this can be categorized into the urban component, and second, we can also see it as a physical component. So smart spaces, building automation, micro infrastructure. Let's not read it. Let's be very straightforward. If we create a city that is able to operate the early warning system that by its own mechanism, by using the internet, and a city that where the buildings can take the necessary action if the fire outbreak, because Dhawan sir is recently throw a very good light on the forest fire, but we all know that water and fire see no difference in forest and building for the peoples or infrastructure. Fire is meant to burn, and it will burn, whether it's a building or the fire or the forest. So equally, it is very important. We have seen a lot of fire incidents in previous time, where even the fire brigade is not able to reach at those locations. And like the Chandni Chowk at Delhi, if the fire outbreak, a lot of wires are also there. It is not possible there to control that fire. So in smart cities, we will take care of all these challenges that are likely to come to manage the disaster of that particular area. If an area is coastal, then they are likely to hit by the floods, and also if the coastal boundary, like where the tsunami possibilities are there, we can associate the early warning system with the city's management. We can also go for the green building concept and different concepts that are helpful for mitigating the disaster, because Anil Gupta sir, I have here I get the chance to hear him several times, and I remember one famous line of him, that he said that there is no natural disaster. Every disaster is associated with some time of nuances created by the human being. So there is no natural disaster. And so if we make the building in such a manner that it is not cradle to grave, eco-friendly, then it is going to impact the environment. So as a increase in the greenhouse emission or the carbon footprint, it is somewhere is going to contribute to toward the global warming and other associated disasters. So we can see that this smart city concept can be incorporate the disaster resilient infrastructure when they are going to plan, and also if an existing city is to be is to plan for transforming into the smarter one, then we can also go for it, these concepts. Like if we design a building with a point of view of lighting and ventilation, then we not need much ACs, much electricity. So it is certainly going to contribute to achieve the SDGs and other aspects that are discussed in various conventions. Energy management is one of the most important thing. And smart city component are there. Water management, how water quality monitoring can be observed especially during the pandemic period. Water quality monitoring is very essential because during the pandemic, it's a very high threat that water can be contaminated. And so in previous pandemic like the plagues, fortunately in COVID-19, the situation is not worst by the water contamination point of view, but in certain situation where the water there is a huge possibility of water contamination during the pandemics or pandemic outbreak. For that, we have the measures like the chlorination and other aspect. But now, at the last time, in the last slide, I would like to discuss this famous line, the Petra Nemkova. We cannot stop natural disasters, because but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So many lives wouldn't have to be lost if there was enough disaster preparedness. So this initiative of disaster resilient infrastructure basically contributing towards toward preparedness and spending that $1 that is going to save one day billions of dollars. And not only the dollar, money is not only the aspect, but the life is. You can recover from the economic instability, but you cannot return a single life. So that is why the DRI and smart cities has to be considered in a priority basis for the future development, because with increased population, you can take the example of a story that if a person has the two sons, if a farmer has the two sons, then the field will be distributed between in the two parts. But after that, if they also have the children, then the field will further going to divide, and one day there will be no field. There will be just a piece of lands where you cannot cultivate anything. So this is going to be going to be a situation if the population go on increase and we not plan our city accordingly. If we go for the haphazard development, then it is going to certainly pay by the future generation, not as in the similar manner that we are paying for the previous generation. So let us take a responsibility of contribute to disaster resilient infrastructure and smart city, so that we can prepare a great secure future. And till 2050, we not need that 3 Earth, and we can survive with our own planet. Thank you, Ashish sir, and I would like to end myself. Ashish sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Avdesh.
Okay.
Silky ma'am. Hello.
Hello.
Silky ji, kindly continue with your.
Thank you so much, sir, Avdesh sir, for your very informative presentation on the concept of disaster resilient infrastructure and the role of smart cities in disaster resilience. Without a further ado, I want to put some questions asked by the audience. Sir, there is a question by Sanjay K. Dwivedi. Is there any plan for rural disaster resilient infrastructure?
Rural disaster resilient infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
Sir, there is actually this resilient infrastructure is something that is associated with the planning purpose, and we have recently launched the disaster resilient infrastructure on a global scale. But I don't remember that there is a planning for the rural infrastructure, because if we see the cities, then you if you survey your own house and own mohalla, you know, then how much planning you can see as by the disaster point of view. Even the smart cities are inundated due to the heavy rainfall. These are observed. The smart cities that are designed for the smart standard of living, but they got inundated due to the heavy rainfall there. So there is not a proper, I would say, planning for right now. But we are developing. We are working on the knowledge sharing and also on the implementation purpose. You can see that the DRI is not very old concept. It is launched recently by the India. So we are on work on that.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one more question. What is the main reason behind the failure of smart city concept in India?
So that is something that is associated with the willpower. You know, a lot of factors are there that is associated with the almost every environmental engineer, every engineer, or and you can say every technocrat and every person who is a scholar is facing a situation that something that is associated. I don't want to take the name, but the political will is something that need to be that is needed. But fortunately, with the leadership of Prime Minister, our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, it is very good initiative taken against the disaster management, because Narendra Modi sir has a very good experiment of disaster management after aftermath of Gujarat earthquake, and also some it is a chance that when he got the chief minister, then he associated with several projects associated with the disaster management, especially the Build Back Better programs. And 2013, and I think Narendra Modi, our Prime Minister government elected in 2015, and 2013 was the year when the Kedarnath disaster outbreak. So he has a continuous concern with the disaster management. So, and this CDRI is also the initiative of Indian Prime Minister and India. So I think this is the situation where the problems are, but they will be certainly resolved very soon if the people stand together from the different different boxes. And one more thing, I would like, we have an expert that can answer a very specific, in on this topic. Why smart city mission is failed, or why smart city thinks so, sir. So I would like to ask the same question that to Dr. Anil Gupta, sir. Sir, Anil, sir. Sir, you are an expert on this. Kindly say something about this.
Unmute
It's an interesting question. Sir, I request you to say something about this.
Yeah. So I have 2 points to support the arguments and discussion here. One is that someone says that smart city concept is failing. I would have a question in the question. Is the success of failure of a city or the success of failure of a person? So it is not the organization or a city that fails or succeeds. It is the people.
Right, sir.
And so if we say, although I would not agree that it has failed, but if we say that there has been some failure, so failure is of the people also. And why the reason? Failure is not bad also. I would not say that failure is bad always. Failure is always a step towards success. We all agree this.
Well said.
It is a learning process. And if we say that the smartness, overnight you cannot convert anything to smart. Recently, China has tested its train running at 700 kilometers per hour or 650 kilometers per hour. Yes, that is a smart move. For becoming smart in India, can we immediately think that we run that kind of train in India? There are social dimensions. Even if we bring the technology, yes, we can bring the technology, we have money, we can bring the technology, but can running that kind of train in India is immediately feasible? So there are so many questions. There are countries where interlinking of rivers have been done. In India also, almost 45-50 years we have been discussing about interlinking of rivers. But see, the situations are different. Our country highly undulating terrains, ups and downs, hills, rivers, valleys in between on the route. So if we have to uplift the water to take to next 200 kilometers, and you have to cross 100 kilometers of hill and put in a lot of electricity to raise the water and then flow to water, then probably there are questions. There are questions on environmental dimensions also. Like people say that if we connect the rivers, then the arsenic pollution of Hooghly will be mixed with other rivers where the arsenic pollution is not there. So there are questions. Now it comes to smart city concept. Originally the smart city concept, what is the smart in city? Basically the focus was on supplies and services. That was not primarily the smartness about disasters or smartness about climate change. So it was basically, you use the technology, you use the artificial intelligence, and all the supplies are automated, so that पानी का सप्लाई है, वेस्ट को उठाना है, आपका गैस का सप्लाई है. सो धीरे धीरे अभी देखिए बहुत सारे सिटीज में हमारा पाइप्ड गैस सप्लाई हो गया, एलपीजी की जगह शिफ्ट हो गया हमारा पीएनजी पाइप्ड गैस सप्लाई. So these kind of things are the contributors are the dimensions of smart city. But meanwhile जब हम स्मार्ट सिटी की बात हिंदुस्तान में करते हैं तो हमें आ रहा है कि स्मार्ट सिटी हम सिर्फ ऐसे नहीं कर सकते हैं कि हमने अगर कोट पैंट पहन के खड़े हो गए और बाल अच्छे से जाके हमने सलून से करा लिए, सो दैट इज ए पार्शियल स्मार्टनेस. वो उसके अंदर वो टैलेंट भी आना चाहिए, वो कैपेसिटी भी होना चाहिए टू परफॉर्म एंड टू विदस्टैंड ऑल्सो. वो 5 मिनट की स्मार्टनेस नहीं होनी चाहिए या 2 दिन की स्मार्टनेस नहीं होनी चाहिए. सो वो कैसे होगी? हमारे यहाँ फ्लड्स के प्रॉब्लम है, अर्बन फ्लड्स की प्रॉब्लम पड़ रही है, हमारे यहाँ वाटर स्कैर्सिटी की प्रॉब्लम पड़ रही है. आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूट तो तब करोगे जब पानी होगा. आपका बहुत अच्छा डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सिस्टम है, वाटर स्कैर्सिटी है. सो अभी क्या हो रहा है, वी आर वर्किंग इन ए डायकोटमिक सिचुएशन. एक तरफ हमारे पास टेक्नोलॉजी है, दूसरी तरफ लिमिटेशंस पोज्ड बाय द एनवायरनमेंट है, लिमिटेशंस पोज्ड बाय द डिजास्टर्स है. सो वी आर ट्राइंग टू मूव अहेड. अभी बहुत सारी सिटीज ने रिजिलियंट सिटी प्लान्स भी बनाए हैं, जैसे इंदौर ने बनाया है, गोरखपुर ने भी अभी इनिशिएटिव लिया. बट यस, प्लान बनाने के बाद इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कितना होता है, अगेन हम दूसरों को दोष देते हैं, बट इम्प्लीमेंट करने में भी तो हम ही लोग हैं, है ना. हमें ये देखना चाहिए कि जो लोग स्मोक करते हैं, ऐसा नहीं कि वो अनपढ़ होते हैं और उसके गत्ते पे लिखा होता है कि स्मोकिंग इज इंजurious टू हेल्थ, और उस पे तो आजकल बहुत खतरनाक सा वो भी बना रहता है, एक कीड़ा भी बना रहता है ना, बिच्छू बना रहता है. इसके बाद भी लोग स्मोक करते हैं. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि वो सारे अनपढ़ हैं. सो एक्चुअली ब्रिंगिंग द नॉलेज एंड अवेयरनेस टू द ग्राउंड, सो वी आर मूविंग. बट ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने तरक्की नहीं करी, हमारी सोसाइटी में बहुत इंप्रूवमेंट्स हुए हैं, हमारे शहरों में भी इंप्रूवमेंट हुए, बट अभी बहुत आगे जाना है. दिस इज रियलिटी. नाउ कमिंग क्विकली ऑन द रूरल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. सेम इज द स्टोरी ऑफ रूरल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. पहले हमारी जो सड़कें बनती थी हर बरसात में बह जाती थी. अभी आप देखिए जो प्रधानमंत्री सड़क योजना के अंदर जो टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस उसमें डाली गई, जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर वो सड़क बनाएगा वो अगले 5 साल तक उसको मेंटेन भी करेगा. तो अभी उसके कान खड़े रहते हैं कि अगर उसने सही नहीं बनाई तो 5 साल तक वो भरता रहेगा. सो ही मेंटेन्स द क्वालिटी. अदरवाइज आपने 1 साल में सड़क बनाई, पैसे लिए, चलते बने, अभी बह गई तो बह गई, हम क्या जाने. सो नाउ दूसरी बात है, हम कहते हैं कि 120 किलोमीटर सड़क बनती है, वो 120 किलोमीटर की जगह 90 किलोमीटर बने, लेकिन वो सड़क जो है वो रिजिलियंट हो. एंड नाउ देयर इज ए कंसेप्ट ऑफ ऑल वेदर रोड्स. ऑल वेदर मतलब वो गर्मी में भी ठीक हो, ठंड में भी ठीक हो, बरसात में भी ठीक हो. तो ये चीजें अभी हमारी आ रही हैं. हम बात कर रहे हैं कि रूरल हॉस्पिटल, रूरल स्कूल्स जो बने, उनकी लोकेशन से लेकर डिजाइन अच्छी होनी चाहिए. अभी क्वेश्चंस तो आ रहे हैं, बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं. हमने स्कूल्स में टॉयलेट बनाए, ऐसे भी कई एग्जांपल आ रहे हैं कि साहब स्कूल में टॉयलेट तो बन गया, पानी नहीं है, तो टॉयलेट कैसे ऑपरेशनल होगा. सो सवाल भी हैं और उसी साथ हमें जवाब भी ढूंढना है. इसलिए हम बात कर रहे हैं कि कैसे जो विलेज डेवलपमेंट प्लान है, जो ग्राम पंचायत का डेवलपमेंट का प्लान बनता है, विकास का प्लान बनता है, उसके अंदर डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट की बात कैसे डालें, कैसे वहां पंचायत के लोगों को हम ट्रेनिंग करें. क्योंकि जब तक उनके मन में ये बात नहीं आएगी ना, इसमें बहुत हाई टेक्नोलॉजी की जरूरत नहीं कि हर जगह इंजीनियर जाके बैठे. गड्ढा है तो पानी भरेगा, इसके लिए बहुत ज्यादा शायद इंजीनियर की भी जरूरत नहीं है। इतना अंदाज हो जाए, फिर वो इंजीनियर से बात करेगा, साहब ये अब बताओ क्या करें, हमारे पास जमीन यही है, तो कैसे हम उसका डिजाइन चेंज करेंगे, कैसे मटेरियल चेंज करेंगे, कैसे हम प्लिंथ हाइट बढ़ा सकते हैं, है ना। तो वो चीजें हैं, तो वो इस नॉलेज जितना ज्यादा से ज्यादा बढ़ाएंगे उसमें फर्क पड़ेगा। और दूसरा हमारा यह है कि मॉडल हमें तैयार करने हैं, जिसने अच्छा काम किया है उसके केस स्टडी लेके हम दूसरों को भी बताएं। तो ये अभी हमारे जो इंजीनियर्स हैं, जो टीचर्स हैं, जो बच्चे हैं, उनका भी है कि अच्छे एग्जाम्पल्स को हम लाएं। तो बहुत अच्छे क्वेश्चन जो दो पूछे गए वो बहुत ही अच्छे क्वेश्चन थे, तो मेरा ये जवाब छोटा सा इन चीजों के लिए था। थैंक यू
सर। एक क्वेश्चन होगा धवन साहब से
जी। हाँ
धवन सर।
गुप्ता जी एक क्वेश्चन मेरा है। गुप्ता जी एम आई ऑडिबल?
जी जी बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
ये जो स्मार्ट सिटी की बात हो रही है, जैसे हमारा देहरादून छोटा शहर,
हाँ हाँ
एंड इट कवर्स अंडर स्मार्ट सिटी,
जी।
वन ऑफ द स्मार्ट सिटीज। अब इसको रीडेवलप करना है इन्होंने, गवर्नमेंट। So it is very difficult to redevelop these type of small cities. को जो है इम्प्रूव करना, इट इज आई थिंक इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट है।
बिल्कुल
जो कि रीडेवलप हो सकता है वो एरिया, उनको ले, उनको कवर करें स्मार्ट सिटी में।
रावण साहब बिल्कुल आपकी बात जो है, एक्चुअली क्या हुआ, ये जो स्मार्ट सिटी का कंसेप्ट हम लेके आए हैं, ये बोरोड कंसेप्ट है। और मेरा तो थोड़ा सा ये भी मानना है कि हम स्मार्ट वर्ड ही क्यों यूज कर रहे हैं। स्मार्ट वर्ड हमेशा कोई अच्छे के लिए नहीं यूज होता है। कई बार हम लोग आपस में बात करते हैं तो कहते हैं भैया उससे बच के रहना, बड़ा स्मार्ट है। सो इज द स्मार्ट ऑलवेज गुड, है ना। दिस इज ऑल्सो क्वेश्चन, हमें ये भी सोचना चाहिए। ये स्मार्ट होना जरूरी नहीं है कि वो उसकी 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 जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं बहुत अच्छी हों। इसका मतलब आपका जो फिजिकली या दिखने में आप बहुत स्मार्ट हैं, बात करने में बहुत स्मार्ट हैं, है ना, और मौका मिला तो आप लूट के ले गए। सो इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक दिस। सो अवर सिटीज अगर स्मार्ट बनना है तो ऐसा नहीं कि दिखने में बहुत अच्छा है, सबने आके बड़े बड़े पैसे खर्च करके फ्लैट ले लिए और दूसरे दिन ही साहब वो बाढ़ में अंदर चला गया या अर्थक्वेक में आया लुढ़क गया। सो वो तो इसलिए एक्चुअली ये है कि जो कंसेप्ट बोरो करके लेके आए हैं, धवन साहब ने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि जहां पे स्पेस था, जैसे नया सिटी का डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, वहां पे हम कह सकते हैं कि नया एरिया डेवलप हो रहा है, यू कैन प्लान इन एडवांस, वो हो सकता है। या जहां पे ये पॉसिबिलिटी है कि डिमोलिश करके पूरा बनाए, देखिए ये तो पॉसिबल नहीं है।
नहीं
तो दूसरे देश के जो शहर डेवलप होते हैं और इंडिया के शहर डेवलप होते हैं, दोनों में ये डिफरेंस है कि हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है, हमारे यहाँ डेवलप करे नहीं जाते, यहाँ अपने आप ही डेवलप हो जाता है। गांव होते हैं, धीरे धीरे वो इतना प्रेशर डेवलप हो जाता है, पेरी अर्बन एरियाज हो जाते हैं, धीरे धीरे हर 5-8 साल में हम उसका एरिया म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन का बढ़ा देते हैं। यही होता है धवन साहब, है ना, प्रैक्टिकली यही होता है। फिर इसके बाद डिमांड होती है, साहब आपने इसको म्युनिसिपलिटी के अंदर तो ले लिया, पीने का पानी डालो, पाइप डालो, ये करो, नालियां बनाओ, यही होता है। सो बेसिकली इसमें हमको थोड़ा सा ये देखना है, लेकिन अगर हम इसको मना करें तो भी पॉसिबल नहीं है, क्योंकि अर्बन कंजेशन डे बाय डे बढ़ रहा है। अब उसमें यही है कि अगर शुरू से ये बात आए कि हमें किस तरह का डेवलपमेंट करना होगा, और आपको याद होगा दून वैली के लिए भी एक कंसेप्ट आया था कैरिंग कैपेसिटी का। तो ये था कि किसी शहर की कोई कैरिंग कैपेसिटी होती है कि नहीं होती। अब जैसे देहरादून का तो पक्का होगा भाई, लिमिटेड एरिया है, ऐसे जो भी एरियाज वैली से या पहाड़ों से आसपास से मतलब घिरे हुए हैं या नदियों से घिरे हुए, वहां तो कैरिंग कैपेसिटी की बात आएगी। लेकिन पब्लिक तो कैरिंग कैपेसिटी मानती नहीं है, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट भी नहीं मानती, पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज भी हो जाते हैं, तो वो आप उसको ओवर क्राउडिंग कर रहे हैं। अदरवाइज क्या करना चाहिए कि नियर बाई जो शहर हों 50 किलोमीटर 100 किलोमीटर, उन्हें डेवलप करना चाहिए। और इसीलिए हम आजकल ये भी कहते हैं कि जो हमारे टायर 2 टायर 3 बल्कि और जाइए टायर 4 टाउन होते हैं ना, उनकी सुविधाएं अगर बढ़िया कर दें आप, तो शायद लोग फिर शहरों में नहीं आएंगे, या कम आएंगे, नहीं तो नहीं, लेकिन एटलीस्ट प्रेशर कम होगा। तो आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है, आप कितना डेवलप करेंगे, वहां पे जगह ही नहीं है और पॉपुलेशन आप बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं। मल्टी स्टोरीड पहाड़ों में सही नहीं होता है, अभी आप देखिए शिलोंग में मैं गया था, आज से 10-12 साल की स्कीम बता रहा हूँ, वहां पे मल्टी स्टोरीड बिल्डिंग्स इतने आ गए हैं, वहां पे मॉल कल्चर आ गया है, जबकि पता है कि जोन 5 अर्थक्वेक जोन है ये, और आप वहां पे मल्टी स्टोरीड बिल्डिंग बना रहे हो ना, तो लोग वहां पे निकल सकते हैं, अगर वार्निंग भी आएगी तो निकल नहीं पाएंगे, और वो बिल्डिंग का क्या होगा वो भी भगवान जाने। तो फाल्टी डेवलपमेंट तो है, लेकिन इसके लिए एक पब्लिक प्रेशर भी बनाना पड़ेगा। होता क्या है कि बहुत प्रेशर में वो लाइसेंस और जो अप्रूवल है वो भी मैनेज हो पाता है, बहुत प्रेशर रहता है, वो कर लेते हैं, मैनेज कर लेते हैं, क्योंकि वो पब्लिक का ही प्रेशर होता है। देखिए गड़बड़ करने वाले भी हमारे अंदर ही लोग हैं, और सही करने वाले भी हमारे अंदर ही। तो वी हैव टू क्रिएट ए सेफ्टी इन्वायरमेंट। अभी हम फ्लैट खरीदने जाते हैं तो हमें लगता है कि भाई मेरे पास 40 लाख रुपए है, मुझे कहीं इन्वेस्ट करना है, वो आप जाके इन्वेस्ट कर देते हो, है ना। तो और जो बिल्डर है उसे लगता है कि तुम नहीं लोगे भैया, दूसरा ले लेगा, तो आपको लगता है हम ही ले लें। अब बाढ़ तो आती है, कभी आती है भाई 8-10 साल में, लेकिन अब वो जब तक एक जो कस्टमर अवेयरनेस है, कंज्यूमर अवेयरनेस है, वो भी डिजास्टर के प्रति नहीं होगी कि भाई हम नहीं लेंगे, हम अपना पैसा इस तरह से जाया नहीं करेंगे, तो वो एक अवेयरनेस की जरूरत है। आप देहरादून की बात कर रहे हो साहब, ये दिल्ली में जो पिछले 20 साल के अंदर रियल एस्टेट में डेवलप हुआ है, जो माचिस के खोखे की तरह बिल्डिंग्स बनी है ना, वो फर्निशिंग के बाद तो बड़ी अच्छी लगती हैं, लेकिन आप बनते समय जाके देख लें तो आपको डरावना लगेगा। सो दैट इज ए रियलिटी, और ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है। तो कहीं से पब्लिक को एक अवेयरनेस करनी होगी, और स्मार्ट सिटी के कंसेप्ट को बेसिकली रेजिलिएंट सिटी के कंसेप्ट में बदलना होगा। सो दैट ये हमारा सबका इनिशिएटिव होना चाहिए। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू
सर। धवल साहब, आपसे एक क्वेश्चन है, ये लास्ट क्वेश्चन होगा आज के सेशन का। जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में बुश फायर अभी हुआ सर, धवल साहब सुन पा रहे हैं?
बुश फायर के बारे में क्या?
बुश फायर में ऐसा था सर कि जो कैलकुलेशन इकोनॉमिक लॉस का किया गया है वो नियरली 5 बिलियन के आसपास है, और जो आगे चल के वो फिगर बढ़ेगा ही बढ़ेगा। और 1 बिलियन से ज्यादा एनिमल्स पेरिश हो गए हैं।
जी जी जी।
तो जबकि ऑस्ट्रेलिया जाना जाता है फॉरेस्ट फायर टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में, तो उसके बावजूद ऐसा क्या हुआ कि हम कहाँ गलत चले गए वहाँ पे, और क्या किया जा सकता था जी, थोड़ा उसमें आप प्रकाश डाल सकें। एक ये था सर। दूसरा, जॉइंट फॉरेस्ट मैनेजमेंट जो आपका कमेटी बनता है, जिसमें फॉरेस्ट ड्वेलर्स और लोकल कम्युनिटी को हम इन्वॉल्व करते हैं, ताकि वो जो लोकल इनहेबिटेंट्स हैं वो वहाँ के प्रॉपर्टीज को सेव कर सकें। तो ऐसा कोई एक्सपीरियंस आपका रहा सर पिछले 35 ईयर्स में, जो आपका रिच एक्सपीरियंस रहा है FRI के?
जी, जहाँ तक बुशफायर का सवाल है, जिसमें हमने डेटा दिया था कि इतने इतने बिलियंस जो हैं वो एनिमल्स किल हो गए हैं बुशफायर से। कहीं पर क्या होता है कि फायर जो है वो जब वाइल्ड हो जाती है तो उसको रोकना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है। वाइल्ड फायर के साथ साथ जब हवा चलती है बहुत स्पीड के साथ, टेम्परेचर ड्राई हो जाता है, बिल्कुल टेम्परेचर जो है इतना इंक्रीज हो जाता है और क्लाइमेट ड्राई हो जाता है, उस टाइम जो है वो दैट इज वेरी हार्मफुल फॉर ईच एंड एवरीवन। वो कंट्रोल करना नेक्स्ट टू इम्पॉसिबल है। अब जैसे 2016 की बात हम करें, 2016 में उत्तराखंड में फायर लगी थी बहुत ज्यादा एरिया में। तो उस समय जो है ये काउंटर फायरिंग से भी फायर कंट्रोल नहीं थी, दैट इज ए काइंड ऑफ वाइल्ड फायर। तो हमारे यहाँ से फिर हेलीकॉप्टर सोर्टीज का अरेंजमेंट किया गया, जो कि टिहरी डैम से पानी लिफ्ट करता था और वो जाके जो है वो फॉरेस्ट के ऊपर गिराता था जहां आग लगी थी। वो भी आप देखिए कि 10 डेज और 12 डेज लगातार सोर्टीज करी उसने, उसके बाद जाके वो कहीं पानी जो है वो पानी ने जो है आग को डाउस किया। तो जहाँ एरिया बहुत बड़ा है, ये तो एरिया हम कम की बात कर रहे हैं जहाँ पर की फायर डाउस हुई, उत्तरकाशी का एरिया था थोड़ा, लेकिन जहां पर इतना ज्यादा एरिया में आग फैल गई है, इतने वास्ट एरिया को कंट्रोल करना बड़ा मुश्किल। ये तो ऑस्ट्रेलिया की बात हुई थी या अमेजोन की बात हुई, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ ऐसा नहीं है। हमारे यहाँ जो फायर जो अनकंट्रोल फायर है वो हाई एल्टीट्यूड में होती है ज्यादा, मतलब जहाँ पे स्लोप ज्यादा है, एल्टीट्यूड ज्यादा है, जहाँ क्रू मेंबर नहीं जा सकते, तो उसका एक ही तरीका है कि भाई वहां पर या तो काउंटर फायर करो, काउंटर फायर से भी वो फायर नहीं बुझी तो फिर उसके बाद जो है हम टैंकर, एयरबोर्न टैंकर होते हैं, उनसे फायर को डाउस करते हैं। ये एक तरीका है डाउस करने का, लेकिन वास्ट एरिया में, क्योंकि ऑस्ट्रेलिया का एरिया बहुत वास्ट है, बहुत बड़े एरिया में, उस एरिया में आप सोचिए कि इतनी तेज हवा चल रही है, टेम्परेचर इतना हाई है, 45 47 डिग्री सेल्सियस हो रखा है, तो उस कंडीशन में कंट्रोल करना बड़ा मुश्किल। उसमें तो यही होता है कि भाई नेचुरल वे में आग बुझ जाए। ऐसे रशिया में भी होता है। रशिया में जैसे कई एरियाज हैं, जैसे टैगा है, टुंड्रा है, जहाँ कॉनिफरस फॉरेस्ट है, तो रशियन गवर्नमेंट ये कहती है जहां आग लगी है उसको लगने दो। जहां पर वो नहीं जा पाते क्रू मेंबर या कोई भी मेंबर, वो कहते हैं उनको नेचर के ऊपर छोड़ दो। जब बारिश आएगी या क्लाइमेट में जो है चेंजेस आएंगे, टेम्परेचर कम होगा, ह्यूमिडिटी बढ़ेगी, अपने आप आग आग जो है बुझ जाएगी। ऐसे कुछ एरियाज हैं इस वर्ल्ड में जहां पर कि नेचर पे छोड़ देते हैं। ये तो बात हो गई है। अच्छा, जहां तक ये ज्वाइंट फॉरेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का कमेटी का कंसर्न है, तो ज्वाइंट फॉरेस्ट मैनेजमेंट कमेटीज हमारे यहाँ उत्तराखंड में करीबन 15 से 16 हजार कमेटीज बनी है, और उनका जो एक मेजर टास्क है वो फॉरेस्ट फायर के टाइम भी जो है वो लोग कम्युनिटी आती है विलेजर्स की, और उनका काफी कंट्रीब्यूशन रहता है। क्योंकि देखिए, विदाउट कम्युनिटी दिस इज नॉट पॉसिबल टू चेक द फायर। क्योंकि हमारे पास जो फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट के पास फोर्स है वो उतने मेंबर्स नहीं होते, इसलिए हमें जेएफएम कमेटीज का जो है या विलेज कम्युनिटी का की हेल्प लेना बहुत जरूरी होता है। और 1988 की जो फॉरेस्ट पॉलिसीज है वो भी यही कहती है कि मैक्सिमम जो है आप फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट जो है वो कम्युनिटी की हेल्प ले। जब भी कोई इस तरीके का डिजास्टर्स, फॉरेस्ट रिलेटेड डिजास्टर होता है, जैसे फॉरेस्ट फायर हो गया या मैन एनिमल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो गया या कहीं पर कुछ ऐसा रीजनरेशन प्रॉब्लम आ गई या इंसेक्ट्स की प्रॉब्लम आ गई, तो उसमें ये कहा गया है पॉलिसीज में कि भाई आप विलेज कम्युनिटी की मैक्सिमम हेल्प आप लें डिपार्टमेंट में। और वो डिपार्टमेंट कैसे हेल्प लेगा? अब सबसे बड़ी बात ये आती है ना इंसेंटिव्स की। आप ये देखिए कि जब तक विलेजर्स को आप इंसेंटिव नहीं दोगे तो ही विल नॉट कोऑपरेट विद द डिपार्टमेंट। ये तो हमने देखा है, हमारा एक्सपीरियंस है यहाँ पर उत्तराखंड में, जहां तक हम घूमे हैं जॉइंट फॉरेस्ट मैनेजमेंट में, हमने इम्पैक्ट स्टडी करी है, तो उसमें हमने यही पाया है कि जब तक आपका प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, जब तक आपको पैसे मिल रहे हैं, तब तक तो आप बड़े उत्साहित होकर जो है काम करते हैं, कोलैबोरेट करते हैं। लेकिन जहाँ पैसा मिलना बंद हो गया, वहाँ पे सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात भी खत्म हो जाती है, वहाँ पे जो है कॉपरेशन की बात भी खत्म हो जाती है। तो ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं जो कि ये ब्रिज है बीच में बिटवीन द फॉरेस्ट डिपार्टमेंट एंड द लोकल पीपल। दूसरा, लोकल पीपल जो हैं वो ये सोचते हैं यार कि ये जंगल तो है डिपार्टमेंट का है, ये तो उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है आग बुझाना। ये सोच जो है, जब तक हम इस सोच को नहीं बदलेंगे कि वे जंगल तुम्हारा है, तुमने इसकी रखवाली करनी है। आप ये देखिए, चिपको आंदोलन जो शुरू हुआ था, चिपको आंदोलन क्यों शुरू हुआ था? इसलिए शुरू हुआ था कि चिपको आंदोलन बहुगुणा साहब ने नहीं शुरू किया था। चिपको आंदोलन शुरू करने वाली गढ़वाल की लेडीज थी। सन 1970 की बात है, रेणी गांव है जोशीमठ में, वहां से चिपको आंदोलन स्टार्ट हुआ। क्यों? क्योंकि पहले फैलिंग जो है वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को दी जाती थी। डिपार्टमेंट जो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर को अलॉट करता था, भाई ये हमारा फैलिंग एरिया है, इसमें तुमने फैलिंग करना है। तो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर अपनी मर्जी से जो पेड़ आया काट देता था उठा के, विदाउट एनी साइंटिफिक टेक्निक्स। साइंटिफिक टेक्निक नहीं बताई जाती थी उनको, तो वो काट देते थे पेड़। तो वहां पर जो गांव की औरतें थी वो आ गई, कहने लगी नहीं, ये पेड़ पेड़ तो हमें जो है ये हम इनसे जो है वो फॉडर लेते हैं, हमारे पशु जो है फॉडर, इनकी लीव से फॉडर मिलता है हमें पशुओं के लिए, इनकी लीव से जो है मैट्रेसेस बनाते हैं पशुओं के लिए, हम जानवरों के लिए, या या हमें जो है फ्यूल वुड देते हैं, आप काट रहे हो इनको। तो वहां से ये मूवमेंट शुरू हुआ था। तो कुछ लोग जो हैं वो वॉलंटरली आते हैं आग बुझाने के केस में, बट ज्यादातर लोग जो है वो न्यूट्रल रहते हैं, कहते हैं यार ये तो डिपार्टमेंट का काम है, डिपार्टमेंट बुझाना। लेकिन जब हम इंसेंटिवाइज नहीं करेंगे लोगों को, तब तक जो है वो कॉपरेशन, या हम अवेयरनेस नहीं जगाएंगे लोगों में, तब तक कॉपरेशन मिलना बड़ा मुश्किल है। ये तो जेएफएम कमिटीज का मतलब वो एक्सपीरियंस जो मैंने देखा है।
थैंक यू। अवधेश जी कंक्लूड करें प्लीज।
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful reply. And questionnaire session was not less than the lecture session. It was really very informative and very good information regarding the respective field of expertise from our speakers, and was given to the participant and delegates, and I hope they like it. And also, I would like to give that today we have discussed the disaster resilient infrastructure, DRI, smart cities, and another class cyclone case study by, on Amphan by Ms. Shilki, young professional and young scientist from NIDM, and especially Shri V.K. Dhawanji, very senior and very informative presentation on forest fire. Different aspects were discussed, and we very much benefited with this language, this knowledge, sir. And what during the questionnaire session, you tell us about the Chipko movement. That and really very true, sir. Until and the people are not associated with their sentiments with these type of movements or these type of efforts, it is very difficult to implement these type of planning. Thank you so much, sir. And now we have third day tomorrow, and last day of our FDP, and most awaited lecture from on future disaster resilience from Professor Dr. Anil Kumar Gupta, sir. Most awaited lecture of this FDP session, because today we have discussed the present a lot. We have discussed the things that we are facing, but what will be about the future? Hello. What will be about the future? So what will be the scenario of future disaster resilience will be discussed by Professor Anil Kumar Gupta, sir, and Shri Ashish, sir. Shri Ashish Panda, sir, will discuss the district disaster management plan. Another very important aspect, because it is like the connecting of the big. If we connect the disaster management plan, then it will contribute to the state, and we connect the state, then it will contribute to the national disaster management plan. So very important aspect will be discussed on the disaster management plan by Shri Ashish Pandya, sir. And I will also throw some light on technological advancement and disaster risk reduction, DRR, tomorrow. So thank you all the participants, and thank you our respected organizing chair, Dr. Professor Anil Gupta, sir, and Shri Dhawanji, V.K. Dhawanji, who have provided such a insightful knowledge to us. And I would like to thanks our speaker Ashish Pandya, sir, and Ms. Shilki too, so who have discussed such an informative session, on the different aspects related to the disaster management. And I would also like to thank our all the participants and delegates from all across the country. And there are some questions I can see on the box too, but we not have the time today. So we are summing up this session now. We will take this question on our email ID. You can email all your questions to us, and we will forward to the respective speakers. Those questions you will get the answer. I will request so you will get your queries solved. And I will looking for your presence in third day and last day. So with these words, thank you so much for coming, and we will meet tomorrow too at the same time and on the same link too. Okay, Ashish sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Avdesh. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Gupta sir. Thank you,
धवन
Dhawan sir.
सर,
Thank you,
धवन सर धन्यवाद, और अनिल सर
Okay.
आपका भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, शिल्की जी थैंक यू,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
ओके
much.
आशीष सर थैंक यू.
Thank you. Thank you.